Hey guys, Dave Hewitt here, I'm excited to be joined by Jimmy McCormick here, our underscore Baron from the podcast. How's it going, Jim?
It's going well, I mean, the life of a baron. But the more important thing is how did, our incredibly quick 12 seconds each fantasy football draft go is the main question.
Yeah, so Jim and I did a mock draft over here to talk about it, and we did it. It was a little bit like a high intensity workout. We had like maybe 30 seconds per pick, and we went against bots. So really, we were talking before the show, really like was a stress test to your system and ranks and stuff like that. How are you feeling just during it? I had a specific moment of panic, but I don't know about you.
Yeah, I chose the turn not only in some ways to make it not easy because you go back to back, but like I talked about on like this week on the Harris Football Podcast about how sometimes being at the end can like force you to confirm or like reach like for your beliefs because you're not going to pick for 20 odd picks. So I was the 12th pick, so it makes you kind of like make sure that you establish like plant your flag, to use a Harris term, in terms of like making sure you get guys you really believe in because they won't be there when you come back. Whereas like, if you're in the middle, you can maybe dabble a little bit more because you're picking sooner.
Yeah, for sure. So I ended up with the 6th pick, and mine was a bit safer, and you were at the end of the turn. I really liked how both of ours started in that we both went a running back and wide receiver, and I was surprised personally that we were able to get it. I was able to start off with Dalvin Cook at 6. He fell to me. And then coming back around, I got DeAndre Hopkins. So I was like, great. I've got, you talked with Harris about it. Like, if you can get in those first 5 or 6 picks, there's like a solid running back. One of them, you don't know which one, but there will be somebody there that you're going to feel good about. But I was surprised Hopkins came back. And you got Mixon and Julio at the turn. How are you feeling there? Mixon in the first round?
Yeah, I was happy with that. I mean, I think the first, like at the 12th pick is kind of like again, because I'm on the turn, you have to like plant your flag and get something. So I knew I was going to want to get a back, right? And I was considering to, again, reference the podcast that I was on with Chris this week, Miles Sanders. I considered. He's the other guy I considered because I was treating this as a PPR draft. I know like we should watch out for coach speak and preseason talk, but sometimes I think something that we shouldn't or that we should read into is like depth chart and roster construction and like how is a team behaving. And the Eagles have yet to reinforce the position. Like years before, they used to have these names. Now I know Boston Scott last year got a lot of touches, so I'm kind of contradicting myself in that way. But really what I'm saying is they haven't made a roster effort to ensure or to challenge Sanders. So I did consider Sanders. I wasn't going to go running back, but I chose Mixon because I do like the addition of Burrow, like meaning how that changes things. I don't think people realize that Burrow can really move. He averaged 39 yards rushing per game last year. It's just that it doesn't show that because college does like accounts for sacks and kneels. And like LSU probably kneeled 400 times last year because they were
done. Yeah.
So what I mean by that is that he actually was what I'm saying is he has a little bit of like Wentz, Andrew Luck to him, meaning he can run for 35 to 40 yards, I think, in most outcomes. And that actually helps. A mobile quarterback can really help the movement and move in the pocket of a running back. I just like Mixon there. And Julio is just kind of like it's Julio because you can even see I thought DeAndre would be next. A couple picks later, you got DeAndre in terms of receivers. But then there's kind of a drop-off. Like, Chris Godwin's awesome. But then there's a drop-off, I think, to that Beckham, Cooper, Lockett, Allen Robinson tier. So I think getting in on Julio and DeAndre for us, we kind of stayed within that first tier of receivers.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't go in with saying any particular strategy, right? It wasn't running back, or whatever. When it came to me and there was DeAndre, it's like, okay, I got one of my top backs. Because I was in the middle, I was able to get like one of my top 2-tier running backs and a top tier wide receiver for me. And I think you were able, even if your running back tier like was probably a little lower, Mixon was there, and right after you, Chubb and Jacobs were still available. Like I really liked your spot where there was still options. Sometimes at the end of the first round, I'm like, oh God, what's here? But
I think the turn's okay this year. I mean, like we talked, like I think like even Chris had mentioned, like he doesn't hate the end of the round because I think the idea is. Like you and I before the show discussed kind of how sketchy the third starts to look. Maybe after Eckler there, I think, like early in the third. So like at the third pick of the third round was Eckler. And people can see this graphic at some point, I guess, right?
Yeah, I'll put it up.
So like after the third pick, it's Jonathan Taylor. You're taking a risk. It's Cooper, who had a lower market share of his own offense than Gallup, right? And they're adding
Hmm.
competition. I'm not anti-Cooper. I'm just saying the risk between him and say Mike Evans or these other guys is higher. So long story short, I think in those first 2 rounds, you want to feel good about yourself. You want to feel like you didn't take a huge risk. I just real quick on the Hopkins thing. I think there's like a strange fade going on with him. Like I'm not sure why he's not tighter to the turn. Meaning, I'm not sure why he's
Yeah.
not like really early second or even late first. Like, what has changed so much about the player? Like he's good. Like they just traded for him. Not to say that you shouldn't bank on that. What I'm trying to say is he is their number one. Like he is. I know Larry Fitzgerald is there, but it's like Uncle Larry. Like there's going to be an incredible amount of volume there. Like I don't see why he can't get like a 25% share of that offense. And people seem to be fairly high on Kyler. So I don't know. I think it's not a huge fade, but I think there's a little bit of value with Hopkins.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I was excited to get him. I mean, he was like the number one wide receiver off the board last year, and slipping to
Right.
five's not that big of a deal. But slipping to the second round and not being like the sixth pick overall is a slide. It's a whole round.
But the difference is too is like when you look at the color coding of these charts, like you see a lot of running backs now.
Yeah,
You didn't see that last year. So
that's
being
true.
fifth at receiver isn't the same thing as it was last year. Fifth at receiver last year meant like the ninth pick or 10th pick because we had that tight pocket of like Beckham and you know uh, uh, Michael Thomas at the end of that, but like definitely Devontae. Like you had this group, and now that's spread out a little bit more. It's trickled out a little bit more. So I just think it's interesting. That's one commentary that I think. I don't think any of our first round picks or first 2 picks were so exciting. If I did say anything, if I ever differentiated anything, I actually might even have gone Kelsey there. Like if I had not gone running back, if I took the risk to go like with a zero RB strategy, it might have been Kelsey and Julio. And I know he went way later, but I just think he's like he's a wide receiver one.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be an interesting choice. Your team would look a lot different if you
It
hadn't
would.
gotten
It wouldn't
Joe
have the
Mixon
balance it
too,
does. I started
because
very traditional skill player. Like
mhm,
I started off with all running backs and receivers for the first 6 rounds.
yeah. All right, going back to where we were talking in the third round, that was where I said I had a bit of panic. Like you said, it dropped off
It
kind of
sets
just
in. The
before
talent
me,
changes.
and I wanted to feel good, like you said. So if I was looking at, I ended up going Tyler Lockett. I felt safe. I liked Tyler Lockett, and the next guy was Gurley. And I'm not down on Gurley this year, but I wasn't going to feel safe. Like your feeling was, I was just like,
Right.
ooh, that makes me a little nervous at my third pick. But there were some running backs still available. Like if I fast forward a little bit, you got AJ Brown and Juju. You like got really locked in these wide receivers that I assume you were feeling comfortable with.
Oh, for sure. And like to speak to the Gurley thing, it's like that's kind of, and even Taylor, I guess, represents this too. A couple picks before you,
Right.
it represents like when you start taking the risk on the next tier. Like it's not that you have to be the tier police. It's just that like it can feel sucky to be the first on the next tier, right? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you're getting the downgrade. It's like you're paying for the most expensive bad rental car. Like it's like you know what I mean? It's like I want the upgrade, bro. You know
Yeah.
what I
Where's
mean?
my
Like
free upgrade?
yeah, like is this a tape player? Like like so like that's kind of what I mean. Like Todd Gurley, you have a tape player, you have the
Yeah.
AM FM radio, you're rolling your windows up. Whereas like at least with Taylor, there's some helium, and with Eckler, there's just a very defined role, right? Like so. In any case, on my turn, 3-4, AJ Brown, I just think like already established himself as like this beast X receiver. I don't see a lot of competition in Tennessee. I mean, like they didn't even pick up Corey Davis's he's the fifth pick, and they didn't even pick up his fifth-year option. So that tells you what they think. So he's kind of a lame duck. It just doesn't seem like much competition. Like I like Jonnu Smith or whatever, but like there's no volume competition. Like Derrick Henry's not going to catch 80 balls. So I just feel like the 120 targets are there for him, and I don't see why he can't build at least if he even just builds a little bit on last year. Then we're talking about he validates this pick. And Juju, it's somewhat of a bet on just like Roethlisberger returning to like some 90% of his output and just the volume. There's just like so many targets there in Pittsburgh. I will say, I did consider Adam Thielen there on the turn, but I just went for like the young, fun guys. Thielen, though, is another one of these guys who, of all these other guys who went behind him, I don't believe they have this potential to get 150 to 160 targets. And then in the fifth, I do want to talk about a couple of values, but let's talk more about maybe your decisions, like with like Melvin Gordon there.
Yeah, so I went with Melvin Gordon coming back in the fourth, and it was kind of influenced by, I took Lockett because I wanted to feel good, and then I was just
Right.
like, oh, I need a running back. Like I just had
Right.
that impulse
Felt
of
compelled.
I needed a running back, and this is the part that I might change. If I do another mock or get ready for
Yeah.
my regular drafts, because you got two wide receivers that I would feel pretty good about, and then I take Melvin Gordon. After that, Cortland Sutton was there, DK Metcalf, uh, Terry McLaurin. Like there were wide receivers that I really liked, and they're all kind of clustered in that round.
I agree.
And because I felt compelled to get a running back here, I didn't I didn't grab one of them. You know what I mean? I was going for a little
Yeah.
balance. And part of it I think was like we said, this was like an intense one. It was
Fast.
a fast
Yeah. Yeah.
mock. And so I was just like, okay, Melvin Gordon, like I think he's getting a little bit of hate. He switched the situation, but I think he's good and he's gonna be my second running back. I'll feel good. Grab Gordon, it zips back around and I realized Singletary was still there. And then I was like, well, here's a value. I gotta grab him. And now I had not too many running backs, but my panic for running back didn't really pay out where I was like, oh, I could have got another wide receiver and I would have felt a little bit better personally still diversifying. And you grabbed a
Yeah.
running back that same round too. So I feel like we are kind of around the same.
Yeah. I think the cost certainty there of like you want to feel good, you want to have like that balance. I mean, look, you already had two really good receivers, so it's not nuts. But at this point, I still operate in like BPA mode, like best player mode, like as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to like roster construction mode. Again, that's another thing we talked about with Harris this week about like strategy. Like I used to maybe I think I'm getting more like position agnostic, like just like take the guy. I'm still a little bit hesitant to take the risk on like a Lamar or a Patrick early, just because I feel like we can make up for it later, which we both kind of did.
Oh yeah.
We both ended up with like good toggling options at quarterback. We can play home games, that kind of thing, and I can talk to you about that later too, about how my quarterback strategy might actually work. But um, I I agree. I think one name in here that maybe I don't know exactly what Chris even thinks or whatever, but like Devontae Parker kind of stands out to me a little bit of this group of like a guy who kind of already did it. Like I know he
Mm-hmm.
did it under this vacuum of like it just was like a streak. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And sometimes we discount that the next year. We don't want to overreact to like this like 8 game run. But like maybe the player woke up. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, is it a different player or was it just like a volume usage run where teams just not giving a crap because they were playing the Dolphins and they were up and you know what I mean? Like, and so they weren't doing bracket coverage and they weren't shadowing. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
we don't know all that yet. It's noisy. But I'm just saying between all these guys like McLaurin and Chark, like definitely Chark, like I would rather have Parker, I think, of just this group. Like Landry, Marquise Brown. I like Hollywood, but I just think Parker could get like 130 targets, and he's a big jump ball guy. I don't know. There's something fun, I think, value wise, potentially about that. But
Y-
I did Le'Veon Bell this round.
Yep. I like that
I
pick.
felt good about it that late. I mean, only because there's a big gap between him and then like the next running back wasn't. There was only one running back picked in the next like 15 picks after him.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a cliff after that. But I just like, I mean, at this point, I'm okay with him. Last year, he was the ninth pick in the draft. This year, he's, what is this? The 60th pick or whatever, or the 48th or whatever.
48th. Yeah.
Yeah, 48th pick. So that's not bad. I mean, I just think even if that team's terrible, they're going to give him his 300 touches. They're kind of pot committed. And then Hilton I took because, one, I figured I drafted as if this was a league that had a flex. So I didn't think of this as a depth thing, but even if it was, I would still take it because I just feel like if he's still T.Y. Hilton and if they get a little protection for Rivers, it could be fun. I mean, Rivers is kind of shot, but Hilton might be fun.
I want to take a quick break from Jimmy and I walking through the mock draft and what we learned to tell you something else I'm walking in. Thursday boots. I love them. These are new to me. They're great boots. They're holding up. I was wearing the same old ratty boots for like work and stuff, and now I've got good dress up. I'm excited for this fall. Made with nice leather. They've got good grips on the bottom, cork bed insole. If you go to the website and check it out, it's thursdayboots.com/harrisfootball. Go ahead, check them out. Start under $200. These are the brown captains. They're holding up great. I'm really enjoying them. Thanks, Thursday Boots, for sponsoring. Now, back to the show. We talked about Hilton. Let's jump ahead here. You touched on it with your quarterbacks. The quarterback
Sure.
strategy. We both ended up with two quarterbacks, which I normally don't do. And I wanted to know if was that a value move of they were available, or was it a COVID concern of I want to have an extra quarterback?
That's a good question. I don't know if I didn't. I'm not gonna say I didn't let like COVID didn't play into it as much as it was already like late enough for me. Like, and I felt good enough about my skill position guys. I mean, I probably could have even waited longer. I took Brady in the seventh, at the end of the seventh. I could have just waited longer. But I do think there is something that I know he's older and all these other things, but there's something weird there. There's some potential for it to be fun just because of the talent there. Like the receiving talent there is still pretty prodigious. You know, like look, even in this draft, Godwin and Evans are two top, 20 picks, right?
Yeah.
So I just think like, and that's not that you can't always validate the quarterback that way. I'm just saying Bruce Arians, fun offense, whatever. Um, I just don't know exactly what I risked exactly because the names are kind of gross afterwards. So I don't feel that bad about taking the quarterback. So my strategy with quarterback was this: with the seventh round and the 10th round, respectively, I got Brady and Rodgers. It's just a new world at quarterback, where these guys are, like we said, like not many experts strategies like filter into the mainstream quickly, but like
Hmm.
wait on quarterback has happened. Like wait
Yeah.
on quarterback is fairly popular now. And so this was wait on quarterback and still get your guys. I think what I would do with Rodgers and Brady is like let Vegas do some of the work. And what I mean by that is there really is a correlation between being a home heavy favorite and just fantasy fun because you're just taking the bigger slice of the offensive pie and saying my guy can orchestrate it. I don't see Tampa creating a ton of offense with their running game in terms of like 3 and 4 touchdowns a game like maybe Green Bay could. So what I'm trying to say is if like if Vegas says that Tampa is a 28-point total and they're favorites, well then that means Tom Brady might eat that day.
Hmm.
Whereas if Tom Brady's on the road against like the Bears, I'm gonna be like, I don't know about this one. Like if their team totals 18 or 20, I'm gonna fade him for whatever good situation Rodgers has. So what I'm saying is I won't follow it religiously, but if you could actually just get these guys home favorite games and toggle them based on how their schedules look, maybe this works out 13 of the 15 weeks, meaning works out to your favor that actually occurs where you can pick the home favorite or just the better Vegas position. I think it's trust your process. There's weeks that it won't work, but like Drew Brees, you have Brees, his home road splits. It's not just a couple weeks; it's a couple like decades now that he's been exceptional in the Superdome, which is just it's a fast track. It's like Matt Ryan. It's a home fast field where it's difficult for guys to come in and catch up with the speed on that turf. And I don't know if it's the gumbo or the beignets, but like the dude just likes waking up in New Orleans. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Which is weird. I'm always hungover when I wake up in New Orleans.
There you go. But then on the road, like I'm just saying, like on the road, if he has a tough game, for example, in Baltimore, I don't know his schedule, but like it just wouldn't. You would. It's not an obvious fade, but like if Cam was in some great position, you have Cam Newton all the way down in the 11th. If Cam has some really attractive situation, then go for it. And Cam was a worthy risk because even if he doesn't get the job, which he will, you could do something else. There's other quarterbacks available. And I don't know. I think both of us played it differently, but in the same sense, that's how I would stream quarterback. I would just toggle. I normally wouldn't have two quarterbacks, but I just felt kind of stocked at skill players and good enough to do it.
Yeah, in the draft in the moment, I just thought Cam was a value. Like if he gets the starting position and I get old Cam, this is great down here in
Yeah.
the 11th round. But afterwards, looking at this, getting ready to talk, I liked your strategy of having the two and stuff, especially this year because there is just the unknown of
There
someone could
is
just be
increased
out for
risk.
2 weeks, and
That's true.
if you've got say Tom as your go-to, oh I switched to Rogers, like I didn't lose
Yeah.
anything there probably, which is different than Tyrod Taylor or something. If that's
It's
who
just
you have
funny,
to
like
pick up.
it's a 20, not even 2020 in like the ironic way. I'm just saying like 2020 fantasy football is that you can like wait on Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, so you've grabbed another. If we jump ahead to tight ends, you grabbed another
Sure.
two tight ends here
I did.
with Hunter Henry and Rob Gronkowski, which could be big or could not play with these two records. Like,
Sure. Sure. I mean, with Henry, I think like you'll see, like color coding wise, he was on an island. I mean,
yep.
like in the 6th round we have Ingram, and then in the 8th I took Henry, and then the next tight end's not taken until I took Gronkowski. So there was just this cliff. I didn't get one of those top 7 tight ends. So what I did was like Henry. I know he's had injury problems. He's had volume issues, meaning competing with these other guys. But he's generally just a good football player. Like he's
Yeah.
good in the PFF sense of like yards per route run. Like his slices of production have been good. So. And I don't know like how to quantify Tyrod Taylor's influence on the
Yeah.
offense. I don't think it's good. I was on again with Chris earlier this summer, and we did AFC West, and like I don't love it. I don't love that it's either Tyrod Taylor's like low ceiling passing wise or the unknown of the rookie of Herbert. So I think it's just there. It wasn't very costly, and I think like last year or years before, he's a fourth or fifth rounder. Obviously, there's a reason he slips this far. The thing with Gronkowski is like I have no idea, but it was like him or like Brashad Perriman or like him or meaning in the same round. I don't feel like I took a huge risk skill player wise. That isn't to say you should throw away your picks at this level. There's valuable guys, but if there's anything left with Gronk and he just is like, first of all, I don't know. He could be hanging out with baseball players all season. And what I mean by that is, yes, that's what I mean. He could be really prepared. Like, I don't know. Like maybe he took a special cream. Like
He's got good vitamins. I gotcha.
He was out of the league for a while. You know what I mean? Like he might have been hanging out with Chase Utley. Like he might be like for like the lean and mean Rob Gronkowski, all those things. It's just like I understand the last time he played, he didn't look that good. But like I don't know, it wasn't that long ago. I guess it was that he was really good, but like whatever. Like he's there. And if anybody's gonna like, here's the best thing to say. He is on the group text message with Tom Brady. Okay, like he's getting special emojis from Tom. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, and there's no risk. It's tight end, right? If it doesn't work out, you cut the tight end or whatever. I agreed Hunter Henry was that cliff, and I was looking at him too, and I still fell for the Chargers trap because I took Mike Williams the same round, and it just went,
well, that's a little different. Yeah, like. He can jump ball it, I guess,
Yeah, but once you grabbed Hunter Henry, that's why I waited all the way till TJ Hawkinson. Like it did feel like the cliff, and I went, yeah, I'll just take the 15th tight end. I don't care who this is going to be. When we get there, we'll pick some upside for it. You didn't grab a defense at all, so
I didn't. I probably like what I would do because no one like hoarded defenses here. I would more than likely like I am going to just like cut Rex Burkhead, like even though sexy Rexy. I will say that I actually like Curtis Samuel and James Washington there. Like, I kind of like those receivers late compared to the other names that are on this list.
Mm-hmm.
But I would just pick like, and again, I would look for early schedule stuff, and I would look for again. I did a study for ESPN years ago on again using Vegas. I'm not saying Vegas makes your decisions, but heavy home favorites, they end up in the top 10 like 53% of the time, and like that's a really high actual number. It doesn't sound like it, but it's better than a coin flip, which most fantasy defensive decisions, even though we think we're right, they're coin flips.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're a road dog in a game that's like over 45 points, you're never going to do well, even if you like the defense and you want to talk yourself into it. So that what I'm trying to say is I usually just wait and pick the best one. If I don't feel like I've got a value, like I don't even know who's still available, like maybe the Eagles or whoever has a good matchup that first week, and a good pass rush, I'd just be like, boom, you're my guy. And then stream.
Any other little takeaways? I didn't really have anything. That kind of checked through the other stuff.
No, I think everybody enjoys having their hand held through a mock draft, a meaningless mock draft between two people on the internet. But no, but you know what it is? I think it's helpful to kind of do, like maybe not this exhaustive, but to review your mock drafts. I think one lesson would just be like to look at what happened. Like, they don't all matter, and like most of these are bots. But I mean, like, so is your league. Like your friends are bots too.
Yeah.
Like meaning like people.
You print off that list and just cross
exactly,
them out.
Dude. People behave off ADP. Of course, it's not going to go just like this. But every draft is unique in its own way. Every draft's a snowflake. But like but seriously, like I do think it can help to reestablish or reconfirm or reimagine your like belief system. Like who do you like where? And if you do know your spot, like we talked about with Harris, drafts are coming up soon. It doesn't feel like it. If you know your spot, start picking that from that spot regularly.
Yeah, start doing the mock, and then you'll find that panic moment I had that made me say, I need to sit down with paper and draw a couple tier lines because that was where I got stuck.
And try to use the ADP of the league that you're drafting in because like CBS, Yahoo, ESPN, they're all going to have different rankings and they're going to behave differently. And so if you're doing all your stuff on ESPN and then your leagues in Yahoo or vice versa, I suggest ESPN. But if you do vice versa, it's gonna feel different. You're like, why is this guy not here? It's because the consensus is just different.
Yeah, you can use that to exploit. Great,
Yep.
Jim. I appreciate all your time. Be well. Thanks, everyone. Like and subscribe if you haven't. Talk to you guys later.
Thanks so much for watching. Please, please, please smash that like button, write a comment, tell us who else you'd like to see us review film on, and of course, best of all, please subscribe to our channel and then click that little bell above the subscribe button and you'll be notified whenever we post a new video.